Welcome to our Tech Talks. Our Tech Talk today is focused on monitoring Splunk for Splunk Cloud admins. Tech Talks is a series of short webinars focused on features and best practices within use cases. We value you, our customer, and want you to continue in your Splunk journey. Our experts help create these tips and tricks, and we want you to leverage them in your daily role. I'm Ranita Datta, a product marketing manager for the Splunk Cloud platform, focused on our cloud offering, and I'm excited to share with you information about how you can use the Cloud Monitoring Console in Splunk, and introduce my colleague, Alan.
Thanks, Ranita. I'm Alan Dway, product manager responsible for bringing solutions to admins within who use our Splunk cloud service.
Thank you, Alan, and you'll hear more from Alan soon. Today, we are going to talk about how to get visibility into your Splunk Cloud Stack health, some common usage scenarios using the Cloud Monitoring Console, or as we like to call it, the CMC. Then Alan will walk you through a demo of CMC, and then we will cover additional resources available to help you take advantage of these capabilities in Splunk. Our team will be available for Q&A throughout over the Q&A feature, and if you watch a recorded version of this webinar, please continue the conversation through the Splunk community website for any follow-up questions. Let's begin. Keeping any mission-critical SaaS humming requires some care and feeding. For example, monitoring system resource utilization, maintaining app compatibility, and ensuring readiness for future features. With Splunk Cloud, Splunk deploys and manages your environment. But maintaining the health and performance of your Splunk Cloud environment is a shared responsibility between you and Splunk. As you empower more and more folks with Splunk Cloud in your organization, you may worry about, do I have enough license availability? Are my users efficiently and effectively using the resources available to them? So how do you go about answering these questions as a Splunk admin? Handing over to Alan to talk about the solution.
Thanks. To help be more proactive in answering all these questions, every Splunk Cloud deployment comes with the Splunk Monitoring Console or the CMC app already installed. You don't need to maintain this app. We'll keep it up to date for you. New things are coming out in it very frequently. About once every few weeks, we'll put additional capabilities or features in there. Within the CMC itself, via these dashboards, we provide information on what you need to know to keep your system healthy, to keep it up to date, and to look at information like license usage or resource utilization that'll help you decide on what you want to do with respect to either optimizing things like searches or ingest, or potentially having to increase capacity, for example. We'll go through a little bit of that here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and show you a demo. This is a typical use case flow through the system, and we'll get started now.
Okay, so we'll start off with finding the Cloud Monitoring Console. If you log into your Splunk Cloud instance, if you have the SC_admin role, then you're going to be able to see Cloud Monitoring Console as one of those apps in your application navigation bar. And we start off with an overview of your stack for you. This general information that's available through all the rest of these screens, we just kind of bring them up and bubble them up for you, give you an idea of what's happening in the latest, who's using the system, how many people are using system, search type, indexes, etc. one of the things that we'll start off with here is I'll note that this particular deployment has what we call volume licensing. But we also show you the infrastructure-based licensing dashboard. And even if you're a volume licensing customer in cloud, you'll still get this dashboard. It is particularly useful in an area here that I'll highlight now, which is that even though my entitlement is 0, meaning I'm not an infrastructure-based customer, I'm able to see the top 10 SVC consumers. So we still calculate the Splunk Virtual Core use behind the scenes for you, even if you're a volume licensed customer, so an ingest customer. And one of the things that's useful with that is we break it down on a per user basis. And I'm the user A to A. Obviously, expect to have some SVC consumption. I'm probably not particularly efficient, but I'm pretty surprised to see that we have a new user, a new person here who's using more SVCs than what I would expect to see a normal user on the system use. Meaning they probably are doing something from a user's perspective that I can dig into a little bit. I'll start off by looking at search use statistics. Let's just kind of get a sense for what's going on within the system. I see a little bit of a spike in obviously ad hoc searches that's coming through. Getting sort of a general sense of what's happening from a search perspective in system is useful when it comes to resource management searches, particularly heavy a resource user on there. Um, One of the things that's useful here is in Cloud Monitoring Console, we have a dashboard called expensive searches. Expensive searches really gives us this view to kind of think about it as a top on who's using resources from a search perspective within the system. And sure enough, our new person user shows up in the top 20 most expensive ad hoc searches. Uh, just a word of advice, make sure you run this before you show this to someone else. You might be at the top of this list, or somebody who you might not want to show is at the top of this list. They typically don't realize that some of their searches are as costly as they are. In this particular case, you also get to see what search is running. This is obviously going to be a pretty inefficient search. I scanned a lot of records, didn't return much, ran for a long period of time. Um, and then beyond this, obviously the scheduled searches, I've got a bad search so that I can show up here as well. Um, but one of the things that we do that's kind of interesting is we run a little bit of an algorithm behind the scenes here. We calculate the number based on weighted indicators that kind of tells us, hey, here's not only a bad search that that person run, but here's a reason why we think that might be a bad search. And missing edges as source types hosts, you'll see a lot of these. There are obviously cases when those are okay to run, but one of the things, these are usually typically these types of missing filters are opportunities to create more efficient searches. So we highlight them. There's other inefficient behavior that we also highlight here. So if you look in your system, you might see some additional information on it. Take it with a grain of salt because there's always a little bit of a reason why um, those inefficient behaviors might be business reasonable, but at the same time gives you a sense of kind of what's going on here, what you can advise somebody to do. Now, the obvious thing here, the next thing to do would be to maybe look at that user detail, find this new person here, and get a sense for what's going on here. So we look at usage, user detail for John, new person. He's a power user. Obviously doing a lot of ad hoc searches and get to see both the search that we saw here earlier, but also the fact that they're running a bunch of all-time searches, which is particularly taxing, obviously. And so we see this information here and can now either reach out to John and talk to them about add some education on doing searches, maybe talk about the cost factor. I found it particularly useful just to show them the most expensive searches screen to share with them and show them how they are reaching the top of the board here with relation to some of their searches. That's a useful way to give them a context with respect to that. But if you're on Splunk 8.0 or higher, you actually have another capability that you're able to use as well, which is workload management. In this particular case, after having looked through these pieces, we can kind of look through and say, well, one of the things I might want to do is might want to make sure that I'll create a new rule here. let's call it protect the main, and we're going to say in this particular case that if somebody's trying to search the main index for an all-time range and they're a power user, then let's place that search in a pool. In this particular case, we'll do the limited pool, and we'll let them know limiting your search. Um, Now that rule behind the scenes will begin working. Obviously, we have it on. So next time that John Newperson kicks off a search and it meets that criteria, this rule will trigger, and the system will automatically put that into a limited performance role and pop that message for that user. One of the things you see here is that you don't actually see the results of that, but as we might have seen earlier, in the Cloud Monitoring console, we had that workload management monitoring menu. And what this particular dashboard does in CMC is it does look at any of the roles that were triggered. So right off the bat here, we do see that we are moving and stopping some of these searches as they're going through. Um, I can obviously split this up and see that user new person did trigger one of these, and that you can also look at it from a per rule basis. The protect main got triggered, and obviously took the appropriate actions there for that user based on that rule. So this is a good way to kind of see the end result of that. Obviously, once you've set up some of these dashboards, you let them run for a while. You come back and you look at license usage, expensive searches, and that user activity, and you should see changes in those behaviors. Um, if things like limiting the search the pool itself for searches doesn't work, you can take more aggressive actions. You can obviously stop searches. That's what some of these action outputs were. There's searches that we just stop from executing after a certain amount of time so that we can preserve resources on the system. On a more broad sense, beyond search, one of the areas that obviously takes up resources on the system are you know, data quality from an ingestion perspective. So we can look at index performance here within the system real quick and see I'm certainly not doing much ingestion, but looking at data quality, no recent issues, but we'll do a kind of a quick peek at maybe the last day's worth of issues and see if anything shows up. Sure enough, I've had some issues with line breaking issues with this particular source type. Um, with that's some timestamp parsing issues. So this gives you an idea. When you see data quality issues like this, obviously this is taking up resources on your indexers, and so uh, search obviously competes for the same resources on those indexers when it comes to this. So if one of the areas where you can look at optimizing on is seeing if you have a large scale set of issues with respect to ingesting data. This kind of gives you an idea of where those are, how you can drill down into them, what you can do about them. Um, but search is honestly probably the bigger area. It is we look at stacks on a regular basis and see about 75% of the resources on indexers are usually triggered from searches. We can kind of get a better sense of what search is doing via these menu items up here. And don't forget that scheduler activity, usually when you have real big bumps or maybe skip searches that all happen at the top of the hour, means that a bunch of people are executing their searches over the same intervals, so you might want to spread them out. Those are kind of the big picture areas. I will point out in the slide we talked a little bit about the upgrade experience. It depends on what version of Splunk you have in cloud. If you're on the latest and greatest, this particular system is on the latest. You'll see a message like this. You're already up to date. You don't have to do anything. You're good to go. But if you're on an older version, then what you'll get is a message that tells you what apps that you have that are compatible or not compatible with the upcoming version that you would be upgraded to, as well as forwarders that you have on your system that might be in need of an upgrade, for example. So those are the big picture areas here for this. The flow of looking at your resources, of drilling down into the things that are consuming those resources, limiting those resources, and then seeing the output of that limitation is the big picture flow that we'd like to show here. It's pretty common. One of the key pieces as an admin on the system is that the role is to preserve the capability of the system, and so consumers over consuming resources and then potentially limiting them are a key part of that role. All right, thanks.
I hope that demo gave you some information on what you can do with Cloud Monitoring Console. If you'd like to learn more about the console itself, we provide documentation here as well as some information on specific features like the upgrade readiness dashboard video posted here. We also have courses for Splunk Cloud, and we'd love to hear from you. If you're on the answers.splunk.com site, this is a place that we monitor very frequently. I'd love to hear from customers about what additional features we can bring into the Cloud Monitoring Console, make life easier for you as an admin.
All right. Finally, don't forget that we have an incredible community of Splunk users on our community site. There is a Q&A section, like Alan mentioned, where you can search for previously answered questions on Cloud Monitoring Console. Or you can start a new discussion thread in the Platform and Admin Splunk Tech Talks section. And most importantly, there's Splunk Ideas, where you can submit new product enhancement requests and vote on other submitted ideas and see them come to life. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to join us today. Please tune back in for future Tech Talks. We are really excited to share the series with you.